Today, the House passing President Biden's social spending plan. What happens next, and what are some lawmakers saying about it? And the Biden administration asking China to release its oil reserves to help ease global gas prices. First time it's ever happened. That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. I'm Paul Graney. The House has passed President Biden's nearly $2 trillion spending plan, but it is likely to face tougher challenges in the Senate. NTD's Jessica Beatty has more.
The Build Back Better bill is passed.
The House passed President Biden's $1.85 trillion spending bill Friday morning. Democrats wanted to vote Thursday, but Republican leader Kevin McCarthy delayed it with an 8-hour speech, beating House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's previous record.
What the Democrats are proposing is out of touch in the extreme. What we have before us isn't a social spending bill. It's a pathway to socialism.
McCarthy said all the new spending will be borrowed from the American taxpayer. And if Democrats supply so much money in a tight economy, it'll lead to more inflation.
It angers me. We are so better than this. You are spending so much money. Never before. We spent less defeating Hitler, Mussolini, and Japan than you're spending tonight.
According to Norwich University, the oldest private military college in the U.S., if you account for inflation, World War II cost over $4 trillion. The nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Budget says Biden's spending bill could potentially cost nearly $5 trillion if temporary provisions are made permanent. Despite differences, Pelosi and McCarthy agree on one point.
We have the Build Back Better bill that is historic, transformative, and larger than anything we have ever done before.
Senate Democrats are still working to get enough votes. Several Democrats, including Senator Joe Manchin, have raised concerns about the price tag. The Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, said Thursday that Biden's bill would increase the U.S. deficit by $367 billion over 10 years, but it could generate $207 billion from tax enforcement activities. That's much lower than the White House's estimate of $400 billion. Despite the worse-than-expected findings, the White House welcomed the CBO's report, calling it good news for Democrats. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen also welcomed the news, saying all the different scores together make it clear that Build Back Better is fully paid for. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
And for the first time ever, the U.S. government is asking China to release oil reserves. It's in a bid to ease global gas prices. President Biden raised the issue with Chinese leader Xi Jinping during a virtual meeting on Tuesday. Here's the White House press secretary.
The president, we have national security members of the national security team, I should say, have discussed with a range of countries, including China, as was noted in the readout, the need to meet the supply demands out there over the longer term as well. I don't have an update. I know you weren't exactly asking about China, but about that. But that is an ongoing conversation and one we're having with a number of partners.
A Chinese regime spokesperson told Bloomberg it's carrying out crude oil release work now. In fact, China started auctioning off its strategic reserves in September. That was to ease pricing pressures within China. It seems President Biden is looking for a coordinated release of its reserves to maximize the effect and put pressure on OPEC+, which is refusing to increase production. But some experts say the president's move will have absolutely no effect on the price of oil or gas. America has the largest strategic reserves in the world at 600 million barrels, but the U.S. alone produces 15 million barrels per day. Releasing the reserves would be but a drop of oil in the ocean. Regardless, the discussions come after crude prices reached a multi-year high last month. And as the price of new and used cars continues to rise and manufacturers start to cancel features, Ford is teaming up with a U.S. chip maker. They plan to work together to address the chip shortage for the entire U.S. auto industry. NTD's Faye Corder has the details.
Ford and U.S.-based chipmaker Global Foundries have announced a strategic deal to boost semiconductor manufacturing and technology development in the U.S.
And this is really going to be the critical move.
The deal would expand chip supply for Ford's current vehicle lineup. They'll also work together on research and development to address the chip needs of the U.S. auto industry. Ford wants to focus on 3 types of chips: autonomous driving chips, in-car data networking chips, and battery management chip. They're seen as the future.
One of the interesting things about this is not only are they looking for a better supply of chips, but they're also looking for better chips. In other words, more feature-laden chips that eventually will be able to add more functions, more features to tomorrow's cars.
In terms of how quickly Ford's chip shortage can be fixed, experts think it's still unclear.
It may get them more of the existing supply of chips, but it seems like this is more of a mid to long-term play.
Over the past year, the global chip shortage has caused Ford and other automakers to reduce vehicle production. That's left automakers scrambling for ways to access more chips. For example, General Motors is working with 7 chip suppliers, including Qualcomm, to explore new designs of microcontrollers. Faye Quarter, NTD News.
So joining us to discuss the U.S. car market is Austin Germain. He's the general manager at Land Rover Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Austin, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
So Austin, looking at the Commerce Department data, looks like vehicle sales, total vehicle sales, in fact, have really fallen off a cliff in the past 5 to 6 months. Is it purely a case of consumer demand falling, or you just don't have the cars or vehicles in stock to sell?
I mean, it's the supply of new cars. For a while, everyone was, 100-day supply, things that we had never seen before after the pandemic, because we had months on end where dealers just weren't selling any cars, to all of a sudden ramping up to having record sales, and the supply chain was not able to refill enough in time. We're seeing that on our end. I mean, I've got 6 new cars in stock. Normally we would have 80 to 100, and everything is sold really before it gets to the lot. So it's been good, but at the end of the day, it's still 30% of what I would normally sell. So while the profitability has gone up some, it hasn't offset the loss in total units that we used to see. And with that, used car prices are higher than ever. We're seeing a return on our customers' investments on the Land Rover side, which is normally something you wouldn't say with a depreciating asset such as an automobile, but our customers are seeing that.
We spoke about 3 months ago, and the supply chain problems were a problem then. Between then and now, are things better or worse?
There's a lot of talk about it getting better, but still the reality of the situation is probably for the next 12 to 24 months, we're not going to see really any evolution in the current disruption that we have right now. The big, issue that they're talking about is computer chips, which are certainly absolutely an issue across the industry. I learned this the other day. The average Range Rover has 7,500 chips in the vehicle. I thought it was 7 or 10 maybe, but 7,500. So when you think about it, I made the remark to my manufacturer, why don't we just produce 10 more chips and that's 2 more cars? And they said that doesn't even work for the rear view mirror. So I was shut down very quickly. But quite frankly, even if all the chips showed up tomorrow, there would still be issues from the supply of leather, cushions, tires, everything else. The average vehicle has thousands of components from thousands of different manufacturers that have all been disrupted. And from us, as a small manufacturer like Jaguar Land Rover, most of our stuff is international, and all those different countries have been hit in different ways, one way or another. So even if we had the chips tomorrow, the supply of the vehicles wouldn't come rolling through. It's going to be this real tier moving forward.
What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to start? I think we're already seeing less chips being put in cars. We're seeing some features being pulled, at least temporarily. You feel this is going to be a trend going forward? Absolutely.
I think it's the just-in-time manufacturing that I learned about in business school that Henry Ford talked about for 100 years worked for a long time until this pandemic. Some of the Japanese automakers felt it with the tsunami that happened a few years ago, so they kind of pivoted and changed. And our manufacturer with Jaguar Land Rover really realized that, and they're talking about how they can kind of prevent this from happening in the future. One is stockpiling, which is an expensive endeavor no matter what industry you have, and a lot are stockpiling right now. But I think moving forward, having a day supply offhand in the event of an emergency is going to be the norm moving forward.
You're a smaller business, family-owned business, fourth generation. How difficult has it been to look at the financials and wonder how we're going to keep our heads above water and think about we don't really know how long this is going to last?
Yes, I mean, we'll see moving forward. As a fourth generation, only 5% of family businesses succeed in them. So it's something me and my siblings are talking about every day, working with our manufacturers, working with our partners, working with our employees. At the end of the day, our employees make their livelihood based on our parts and service and sales. So making sure they understand that we're taking a long-term approach, not looking at the day-to-day, but taking a much longer approach to their livelihood and to our livelihood is something that we've really had to focus on.
Very good. Best of luck, Austin Germain, Land Rover Easton. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And in their bid to compete with Tesla, automakers have revealed new, more affordable electric SUVs at the Los Angeles Auto Show. New vehicles make up one of the fastest growing segments of the U.S. market. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Kia Motors called out Tesla by name at the show and announced that its upcoming electric crossover EV6 beat Tesla's previous record for the shortest charging time by more than 5 hours while driving across the United States. Kia, an affiliate Hyundai, also unveiled large 3-row electric sport utility vehicle concepts EV9 and 7.
They have strong sales and they have a very good high public awareness, but not everything is for everybody. So there should also always be an alternative, and we're a different way to approach EVs.
Vietnamese automaker VinFast unveiled 2 electric sport utility vehicles, VF E35 and VF E36.
Of course, very important milestone for us because we have started a company in 2017, been very successful in Vietnam. But with this debut today, we become a global brand. And we do this with electric cars only. And then the first deliveries of the cars will be in the fourth quarter of next year.
The focus on electric SUVs reflects the strong preference among American consumers for SUVs. Tesla has become the world's most valuable automaker, with a market capitalization of more than $1 trillion. Rival EV makers see an opportunity.
We are also planning an IPO in the next 1 or 2 years. We are preparing this. Of course, we work through different options. But yes, we will also go after an IPO in the United States in the next 1 or 2 years.
But it will still be challenging for legacy automakers and startups to take on Tesla. GM and Nissan have launched electric cars, but none of them have made a dent in Tesla's dominance. Tesla is taking advantage of its perceived technology edge and strong demand to lift prices for its vehicles, especially as prices for raw materials and semiconductors have risen this year. The Los Angeles Auto Show will run until Sunday, November 28th. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
In today's market news, the Nasdaq closed above 16,000 for the first time today, while the Dow marked its 4th straight losing session. It fell 270 points, about 0.75%. S&P 500 lost 7 points, about 0.1%, but the Nasdaq gained 64 points, about 0.4% today. And global corporate dividends are set to reach a record high this year, according to a new Reuters analysis. Refinitiv analyzed thousands of global companies with market caps of at least $1 billion and found their total payouts to shareholders could be as much as $1.37 trillion this year. Mining firms led the dividend payouts, boosted by a surge in commodity prices. The financial sector is also expected to deliver higher dividends. That's as global central banks relax restrictions on dividends and buybacks they imposed last year. One asset management group says globally, 90% of companies either raised their dividends or held them steady. And the Food and Drug Administration gave the go-ahead today for booster shots from both Pfizer and Moderna. The FDA says data shows a booster of the vaccine increased the immune response in studies of both vaccines. Current CDC guidelines recommend extra doses only for some population groups. Now the green light paves the way for millions of Americans to get additional shots 6 months after their second dose. The FDA authorization comes as the CDC reports new cases are on the rise again in the United States after falling for nearly 2 months. And Americans are increasingly using financial assistance to pay for medical bills, according to TransUnion. Many are putting off care because of the cost. NTD's Michael Corder has the details.
TransUnion says there's been a 55% increase in financial assistance transactions for healthcare in the last year, and that 35% of Americans with existing medical bills choose to delay getting healthcare because of the expense. Caitlin Donovan is the Senior Director of Public Relations at the National Patient Advocate Foundation. She says patients can face dire financial consequences from high medical costs.
They also sometimes put off paying for things like their mortgage, their car insurance, their car payments, childcare.
She says some people even lose their homes or forego life-saving care because of expensive medical bills. Donovan says other people try and save money by cutting their medications in half or avoiding care.
Sometimes they put off different types of medical care. Sometimes they try and not exactly adhere to the treatment protocols because they secretly can't afford it and don't want to talk to their doctor about it.
Donovan says patient advocates can make a big difference.
On average, our case managers bring back over $4,000 per patient that they work on. And a big chunk of that is getting them enrolled into benefits they should have already been receiving, onto the right insurance plan, and connected to the right places.
Donovan says the American medical system is extremely complicated, and it can really help having someone on your side to help you navigate it. Michael Corder, NTD News.
And still to come this evening, Elon Musk gets what he asked for, a UN plan on fighting world hunger. The UN says it'll cost $6 billion. And a rare copy of the American Constitution auctioned off for a record price, but to the disappointment of crypto investors who were outbid. So who is the winner? That and more coming up on NTD Business.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. Before all this started, I had already written in my memoir, I dedicate this book to anyone that's looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible. To thank you all for your support, I'm offering some of my best prices ever on MyPillow products, including this exclusive bundle. You get my book and these 5 MyPillows. They all have beautiful scenes and verses from the Bible, such as Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. This 6-pack bundle is regularly $219. Now it's just $99.98 and free shipping with your promo code. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below. Thank you and God bless.
You are not just watching a performance. You are witnessing a culture reborn. Now, you'll see what the modern world has never seen. China, before communism. Shen Yun 2021, live on stage. Coming to West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami, November 8th through January 9th. Tickets at shenyun.com/SFL.
90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Welcome back. Looks like this year Thanksgiving is going to cost a lot more than usual, but some say it's worth it, no matter the price. NTD's Phil Zhou spoke to some shoppers preparing for the holiday.
Thanksgiving dinner is going to cost Americans 14% more than last year, according to the American Farm Bureau.
I've noticed that things were significantly more expensive than I expected them to be.
Was all set to spend a lot more, and then they have a big special at Whole Foods if you're Amazon Prime, so I'm going to be spending a lot less.
I don't pay attention to the prices of turkeys too often, so I wouldn't notice.
The average cost for a 10-person dinner went up to $53 this year compared to $47 last year.
First big Thanksgiving festival is tomorrow at a West Point football game. There's going to be like 300 cadets that we're going to try to feed, so that's one thing. Between 4 or 5 families, we're going to be at a tailgate for the football game tomorrow.
John Calhoun is visiting New York from Illinois for the holidays. He noticed many items getting more expensive.
Green bean casserole. You make green bean casserole, right? So to get canned green beans were significantly more than I expected them to be.
Shoppers can expect to pay around $1.50 more per pound for a turkey, which is up 24% compared to last year. Michael tells me that's all his coworkers are talking about.
Their Thanksgivings were becoming harder to prepare for because of the turkey shortage.
Natalie, who lives in New York, is planning a smaller get-together instead.
It's going to be very small, very socially distanced, very small pot of people, and unfortunately it's going to be a very big turkey, so there are going to be a lot of leftovers.
Even with prices up, people are thankful regardless.
Giving thanks that we're all still here.
Yes, we're paying a little bit more, but it'll eventually work itself out back to normal.
Phil Zhou, NTD News.
You may have heard that Elon Musk and the United Nations World Food Program are in a Twitter exchange over fighting world hunger. The UN says just 2% of Musk's wealth could help a lot, so Musk asked for their plan. NTD's Olin Richards gives us the latest.
The latest in the back and forth between Elon Musk and the UN. UN World Food Program Director David Beasley has actually given Musk a plan for fighting world hunger in response to Musk's offer to give $6 billion. We asked a business professor about the plan.
It's a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. We're not actually solving world hunger. They've said that themselves. What we are doing is preventing 1 year at a time from the worst outcomes from occurring.
Nicholas Creel is an assistant professor of business law at Georgia College and State University. Creel says $6 billion is nowhere near enough money to solve world hunger.
Teach a man to fish, he eats for a life. You give a man a fish, he only eats for that one day. This program is giving a man a fish, not teaching him how to. And the UN even knows that they have programs that would cost substantially more money that would make that happen, but $6 billion is nowhere near enough. It would probably be on the order of magnitude of something closer to $600 billion, something out of the reach of Musk's entire wealth.
It's just hard to believe.
The Musk-Beasley Twitter exchange all began with an incorrect CNN headline. 2% of Elon Musk's wealth could solve world hunger, says director of UN Food Scarcity Organization. CNN later issued a correction saying 2% would only help solve world hunger. But Musk had already tweeted a response, saying if WFP can describe on this Twitter thread exactly how $6 billion will solve world hunger, I will sell Tesla stock right now and do it. Musk has not yet responded to Beasley's plan. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
And hedge fund billionaire Ken Griffin just outbid a group of crypto enthusiasts for a rare copy of the U.S. Constitution. The crypto group had crowdfunded more than $40 million, but Griffin offered more, a record $43 million. Flora Bradley Watson reports.
The bid is yours for the United States Constitution at $41 million.
A group of cryptocurrency enthusiasts have failed in their bid to buy a first edition copy of the US Constitution. The extremely rare document sold for $43.2 million at a Sotheby's auction on Thursday. The identity of the winning bidder was not immediately clear, nor was it clear why the cryptocurrency group, called Constitution DAO, was outbid at that price. Their crowdfunding page had quickly amassed more than $47 million, or 11,600 of the cryptocurrency Ether. Constitution DAO took to Twitter to concede defeat. "Community, we did not win the bid," it said, promising to refund more than 17,000 contributors to the fund. If they had succeeded, contributors would not have had any stake in the valuable document, but instead would have been given so-called government's tokens to advise on what happened to it. The document they missed out on is one of 11 known existing copies from the official first printing of the US Constitution, which was adopted by America's founding fathers in Philadelphia in 1787. It last sold for $165,000 in 1988.
And finishing in Paris this week, after a difficult year with virus restrictions and poor weather, some raised a toast with one famous wine region's first bottle of the harvest. Natalie Powell reports.
The wine is flowing on this Parisian street as locals raise a glass to the Beaujolais Nouveau, the first wine of the harvest from France's Beaujolais region. And after almost 2 years of on and off again health crisis restrictions, it's giving locals something to celebrate.
It's quite lively. It's fruity, light, pleasant. That's what we need today to cheer up.
In France, it's tradition to drink Beaujolais Nouveau on the third Thursday of November. So the owner of Le Mesteret restaurant in the capital, Alain Fontaine, has been serving free glasses of the wine to passers-by. And he says sharing this tradition is even more important this year.
If one day we had to tell ourselves that after the crises we've lived through there'd be a renaissance, that's today. We can talk about the intrinsic qualities of this wine later, but this is a wine of conviviality, of sharing, of community. We've all missed that during several long months. So today is the day of the true rebirth in bistros and cafes.
Beyond the pandemic, adverse weather has made it a difficult year for wine growers. France is set to produce its lowest output since records began. But winemaker Julien Révillon says that's not going to stop them from celebrating Beaujolais Nouveau.
In this quite difficult period, people hang on to traditions. Even if there's a war, we want to celebrate Christmas. Even during a pandemic, we want to celebrate the Beaujolais Nouveau. People didn't stop feeling that way, only that we, the winemakers, weren't able to produce as much as we wanted to. But I think that people are even more attached to this tradition now.
But of course, with grapes just a few weeks old, the wine isn't the best quality. And it's not for everyone.
It's strong. I don't like Beaujolais Nouveau. It's strong.
Looks like she likes it. That's the latest business updates for today, but you can still catch NTD Evening News. That's with Stephanie Cox at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for this week. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.